crime, politics, crime prevention. This is William Steele with my co-host back from a tour of Europe. Ignacio
Nice.
Esteban, retired ATF agent. How are
Yeah,
you, Ignacio?
you say you got a little sun, huh? On the Med, Club Med out there, Mediterranean, man. I absolutely loved it, enjoyed it. The weather was just absolutely perfect out there. If you guys ever have a chance to go to southern Spain. It's a lot cheaper than the French Riviera, right? Overpriced. You have Nice out there. You have Monte Carlo, but big money, right? A little cheaper, nicer. You get good paellas, good seafood, great sangria. Awesome. I love San Miguel, one of my favorite Spanish beers. Drink a lot of there. I mean, you can eat a huge platter, huge meal for less than $10, Bill. $10 on the Med, and enormous out there. So had a good time there with the family. We spent a week out there. If you people know the Costa del Sol area, which is Andalusia region of Spain, beautiful area there. We stayed near Mijas, beautiful resort out there. Absolutely enjoyed. A lot of European travelers, not just from Spain, obviously, but you got the Brits in there. You got Germans, Dutch,
Now,
all over.
you're bilingual. You're of Cuban descent, and you're
Yeah,
bilingual.
Spanish. Yeah, my
Is there a lot
origin
of English
is from Spain.
speakers over there? Are there a lot of English speakers in that country?
Yeah, and especially in hotels and restaurants. Obviously, you get into deeper in the country, less English, and let's say Spanish. But and then of course they have the different dialects, right? Different languages out there. We also went to Barcelona, Catalonia, right? And they speak Spanish to you, but they have Catalan, right? Which is a combination of Spanish, Italian, French, and it's a different language itself. And of course, Spain had issues where people want to separate and become a separate country, but at the end, it stayed together, which I think was a good thing. And me personally, I have family from all over Spain that came to Cuba. I mean, I have family from that area, the Basque region, Galicia, and also the Canary Islands, which is nice. So I can talk to people from all different. And then came Cuba, and because of Castro and the communists, I was born and raised in the United States. Fortunate enough, great country, and English is my first language, but I speak Spanish. I grew up in Miami, and I spoke a lot of Spanish, and it helps because it's nice when you're there with the locals in their first language. You get things done there. Did a lot of Uber.
What was the round trip cost, and was it only one flight, like a direct flight, and that was it? And then you rent the car and travel around the different cities, or how did you get around?
No. I wish from Dulles, which is in the DC area. Those who know Dulles, huge airport right here. Good Valley to London, but London. I'm not a big fan of Heathrow. Security is a nightmare. It's kind of messy. They're sloppy. We're going from Heathrow to Malaga, and then from Malaga we took local transportation. Uber. The cool thing about taking Uber, and I recommend it in Europe, is that these guys, we drove around in all these high-end vehicles. They all show up in brand new Audis, BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, Tesla, all these nice vehicles. And if you know Uber. You order Uber X, the economy, they're showing up in these nice cars. So it is really cool. We drove around different spots. And of course, we took tours and all that. We went to Cordoba, and we went to, if you haven't been to Gibraltar, which is an English conclave in Spain, really cool. And we went all the way to the Rock of Gibraltar, and we saw the famous Gibraltar monkeys, the Macau monkeys there. The only native species in Europe that were brought in by the Moors over 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Very fascinating. I've got to do my tour.
And you got to do a tour out there. Take Mary out there. Take your mother-in-law, Diane, out there. Have a good time. Southern Spain. Most of you speak enough English, but I know you know a little Spanish. And you also get by there. Do your little homework. You know cerveza. You know sangria. You know paella. Have a good time.
I think sangria is a wine, right? I don't drink.
Cold wine. Cold wine. That's my wife likes cold wine. I like the cold beer. Real good stuff there. And with a good seafood, my favorite is seafood paella, where you have the rice mixed with all the stuff. It takes about a good 30, 40 minutes to prepare, where you mix all the different shells together. I mean, it was really great out there. And
you
the water.
Get us some photographs. We could have put some on the show, or if you get them to me, I could put them in.
Okay, I'll send you some stuff, some views, without the family. I'll set out there. So then we took the train. We also did a lot of trains. So we took the train. I should call it trip: planes, trains, and automobiles. Right. We had the Ubers to get around. We had the trains from Malaga to Barcelona. Barcelona is, like I said, it's a beautiful city, and we discovered this unique. It's about an hour away from Barcelona. We took a tour to get to Montserrat, which is where the Benedictine monks have been there for over 1,000 years, Bill, over 1,000 years. And you have this basilica, and where pilgrims around the world who are Christians come to see the Black Madonna, right? The famous Black Madonna there, which is historical around the world. Even interesting story here. The Nazis during the Second World War believed in the mystical powers that came out of Montserrat. They were looking for the Holy Grail there. Hitler sends Himmler there and during the war to see if he can find the Holy Grail. He goes to Basilica. This has all been documented. Himmler, the head of the SS, he sends Himmler himself to go to Montserrat and to look for the Holy Grail. He didn't find it, but he spent a few days interrogating the poor monks, going through their library, and they had, at the time, they say one of the most extensive libraries in Europe because these guys read, and they read a lot, and they're looking for the famous. You remember Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail?
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg's based on that.
Were you able to tour that place specifically? Yeah. Oh, they allow tours in there? Okay.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing! You have to check. I'll send pictures of the basilica. Unbelievable. It's in the mountains. You see the Pyrenees mountains in the backdrop.
People need to keep this in context. Our country is what, only 250 years old or something?
Yeah. 1,000 years they've been there. 1,000 years. They've been in that region. The Benedictine monks. And a little background, the university I went to, St. Leo, the order was from the Benedictines. And I got married there with my wife at St. Leo Abbey with the Benedictines. So that was very touching, I thought. That was very nice. 1,000-year order, and they have other ones too there too. The original basilica was destroyed, unfortunately, a few times. Napoleon, when he invaded Spain, destroyed it, and then they had to rebuild it during the Iberian Wars back in 1801, 1802, and then the Spanish Civil War. They executed a lot of the monks. Franco did not really care because a lot of these guys were on board with his program. Right. Interesting history there. And then from Barcelona, we took a beautiful train. I recommend that. You see the French countryside, amazing and beautiful. And we went to Paris. And then, of course,
I know for a fact you've written a few books about travel as well. So I'm sure there's going to be one coming out on this. And
I have a lot of pictures. Yeah, I want to do one there with Andalusia and the one from Barcelona, and of course Paris on the verge. Probably the biggest sporting event for them they've hosted in 100 years. The last time they hosted the Olympics was 1924. 100 years later, they're hosting it. Different world, different time, obviously different century. And I thought I was in a police state, I have to be honest with you, Bill. I know I've talked to you a little bit about it. We come in through the train station, and you have military presence, everybody with fully automatic weapons.
Which station?
I went to De Leon, station. And from there, we went our way around. We didn't stay in Paris itself. We stayed outside near the Disneyland. You know, they have a Disneyland in Paris. Right. And we stayed in that area because you have bigger amenities and it was a nicer area. And that's why, because I didn't want to stay all day traveling. And then you stay in a town. You know how the Parisians are. Everything's tiny, poor water pressure. You know, you can't even move around. The beds are small. I wanted American amenities. So that's something I did. I stayed with that's why I stayed with a lot of Marriotts, because we kept the American amenities, and that was important. I didn't want to be stuck in a little hotel that you can't do anything. So we went around, and the coolest thing I think we did quite a few, is we didn't take the elevator to the top of the Eiffel Tower. We took the stairs. We took the stairs all the way up to the Eiffel Tower, and you can see all the venues of all the Olympic stuff going on, which I thought was pretty cool. And they have the Olympic rings hanging from the Eiffel Tower.
When does the Olympics start in Paris?
In a few weeks.
There's a lot of turmoil there. I know you've caught the news. They're rioting in the street. The Hamas supporters. Yes. You know, they've let in so many of these, you know, extremist Muslim supposed refugees, and now they're tearing the country to shreds. And everybody who knew any better and knew what they're really all about warned Europe, warned France, stop taking them in, warned London, England, stop taking them in, and now they're living to regret it.
Well, Macron had a tough election for Parliament. He's lost his government coalition, and the right is going to take over. They can't get, so the right's going to run Parliament, which is very anti-illegal. Like again, you know, U.S. here, and we're going to transition a little bit from French politics too. But you know, when I was there, the Spanish Sanchez was socialist, also suffered some big losses in his parliament, in his Congress, right? So they're also in big trouble there. So You see, I think people are seeing the shift, and I just talked to a lot of people. There was a lot of anxiety because they speak enough English. They were nervous about the games. Paris has had a history of terrorism.
Yeah.
They haven't handled it well. Look at 2015, one of the worst terrorist attacks in Parisian history, right? By extremists, by terrorists, Islamic extremists, killed over 100, I think, 30 people, right? Injured hundreds out there, massacred them because people don't have weapons. They're very anti-firearms. Like I said, a good guy with a gun can try to stop a bad guy with a gun. If you have no guns, no weapons, and they're all the bad guys with guns, it's a slaughter, mass shooting. And that's what the Parisians have, that mentality where guns are bad, right? But it's not the weapon; it's the person who shoots the weapon, right?
Exactly.
I think I mentioned that before. Being a retired ATF agent,
I want to remind my show, my audience that we are doing crime prevention. Ignacio speaks from a very broad depth of experience as a former federal agent in the United States for alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives.
Thank you.
And we both know, and myself, he was a career law enforcement. Unfortunately, I was a career criminal before I got it through my hard head that it wasn't worth it. But so I know a lot about crime and punishment, and what deterred me was when I was going to go into a place thinking, was I going to come into somebody's home like Ignacio that might be sleeping and working the night shift or law enforcement, and I was afraid of citizens with guns. So I know from a point of view of being a previous criminal that it is a huge deterrent to not know. I'd rather everybody be armed and trained than a situation where somebody can come in and do a massacre, and it's 10 minutes before the police get there, 30 minutes before SWAT team gets there, and another 3 hours making a decision to go in or not.
Well, that's awful situation, and that's a perfect example of what happened there in Orlando nightclub, Pulse nightclub there.
Yeah, exactly.
That was awful. The SWAT team took way too long. People were getting executed and murdered. That's a huge number too. It didn't take over Las Vegas, but it is close there. And that, to me, I always criticize. I mean, just like in Parklandville, just like other places, just like in Uvalde, Texas, at Robb Elementary, you got to move. The police has to move. They can't wait for the SWAT team. You've got a few minutes to save lives. People are dying. Your active shooter training is you got 1 or 2 or 3 guys go in and take care and try to distract the shooter, at least do something. But the guys who never went in there, that's not the right thing. That's a wrong thing to do. And shame on them for not going in.
You can distract the shooter by shooting near him, and he'll at least be too scared to fire back momentarily, or flashbangs or something that's going to disorient.
Most of these guys do. They're cowards. They commit suicide when confronted.
Of course,
that's all they need. Just a little confrontation will put them, because they don't want to be captured, right? You look at a lot of these guys from Sandy Hook. The same thing would happen. Virginia Tech with Cho. Right. You look at, and I did a book about the worst mass shooters in U.S. history, how to stop them happening again. And you have to have armed, prepared citizens to defend themselves and their families, because if you don't have any weapons, remember, we're a country filled with tons of different firepower, and the bad guys know how to get it. Trust me, they know how to get it. Gun laws don't work. Jay, do drug laws work, Bill?
No. If you want to use it, you're going to use it.
You're going to find it anywhere. So
I'll tell you what, I never got high on anything, but I did use a lot of that. Yeah. I'm not going to say the name on here because sometimes they want to shut the show off, but I tell people, don't follow in my footsteps and do that. Like, I don't drink, never did, don't smoke weed, pills, this, that. But that one thing I struggled with, right? And the thing is now, I've been out for a few years and I haven't even thought of relapsing because I've been clean for over 20 years. And the thing about that is, even if I considered it for just a binge or for a moment, everything's laced with that damn fentanyl. You don't know what you're getting. You can die from one chance. I mean, it's not worth it. It's not like it used to be. Nothing's the same. Things change.
And not just fentanyl either, Bill. All that cutting agent. A lot of times they put some weird, messed up stuff in there. It's not, FDA regulated.
I remember there was a guy in Fort Lauderdale. He didn't like all the dealing around his house, and he did something and cooked up a bunch of it with some kind of rat poison or something in it. And he was selling tons of it on the street for like a weekend and made everybody sick or near death to try to get him to stop coming around his neighborhood. He poisoned the whole damn community.
Yeah, no, people. And if you got a guy who's trying to make more money, they're going to use some really messed up stuff for cutting agent. It's awful what the stuff you put in your body. Remember one thing, folks: the stuff from the street is not FDA approved, No one knows what's really in it. You don't know what you're consuming. It's bad stuff, bad news.
You have guys with barely an education, let alone they're not a pharmacist, putting whatever to stretch a dollar or to make you feel better, and then they don't know the proper doses. A micro dot that you can barely see of fentanyl is enough to kill several people. Yeah. So if they're putting that in there to enhance these various things. So what I'm saying to you is, from a guy who's gone through it over 20 years ago, destroyed every aspect of my life, do not follow in my footsteps. And if you have a problem, seek help. There's NA, CA, Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're struggling with addiction, seek help. If you don't know where to find it, reach me on the screen, man. I'll be happy to talk to you
that's great.
Talk you down and point you in the right direction, because that's what I do. I work with families and people that are struggling with addiction and people that are incarcerated. So you can reach out to me personally. I'm very, very open to helping people in that situation.
That's excellent. But go back to Paris real quick here. My feeling was, Bill, being there 4 days, and I talked to a lot of people because we did a lot of Uber, and we have, people were talking about it in restaurants. There's apprehension. There's nerves there. People, they don't know. Remember, and also we just briefly talked about the history of violence in Paris. The Olympics itself has a history of problems and terrorism. Munich, 72, right? The Israelis being captured by Islamic terrorists.
That was during the Olympics, sure was. That's right.
72 executed, and they were kidnapped and executed, right? Yeah. They all died. Some of them, they went to? It was backed by Gaddafi. Some of them eventually ended up going back to Libya. But this is the horrors you see. Atlanta, domestic terrorism, 96, Eric Rudolph, right? Took years later to capture him. He was found in a dumpster, right? Law enforcement, ATF helped with that investigation right there.
In that case, I don't know if it was you guys or who it was looking at the wrong guy for years. A guy named Jewel, the security guard who reported it.
FBI. Poor guy, man. He suffered a lot from that. Poor guy. He suffered a lot.
He sure did.
That's all. He lived with his mom. I saw the movie. If you haven't seen the documentary on that, go check it out. I saw that about actually a few months ago. Excellent story. He had a tough life, tragic life. He was a hero. He did the right thing. That's right. He should be treated right. Eric, the guy who did it, Eric Rudolph, convicted and sitting in the federal pen right now. He killed one person with a bomb. Someone else later died from other conditions from, I think, had a heart attack from it.
I think he was going after abortion doctors and federal judges or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's who. The guy was crazy. I mean, that's not the
way.
I
remember he was a survivalist. He became a folk hero. He was living in the woods, and some officer spotted him coming out of the woods, going into a dumpster behind a building, behind a store at night, and got him.
I want to say, I might be wrong about where it happened. It might be in North Carolina, but it was in that area, and he was in the dumpster, and that's how he was living. It took years. It happened. The bombings happened in 96, and I want to say a few years later, finally he was captured. So he was hiding for a while, living like a homeless person. But eventually he was caught. But my point is, Bill, is that this could easily happen. So my story. So we're in Paris. We go to Versailles on the 4th of July, right? The 4th of July. We're Americans. We're in Paris. Remember that France is our first great ally to help us beat the Brits, right? Okay. And I go to a lot to here to Washington's home here in his estate here. I have my name right now.
Mount something.
Mount Vernon. Yeah.
Mount Vernon. You're definitely. What I love about you, you really are a student of history, because
I love history.
You went to the key spots that had an anniversary for a certain reason related to our country.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
Yeah, and I loved the Battle of Yorktown. If you've ever been to Yorktown, you got to go there. The decisive battle that sent pretty much Cornwallis. Him and his guys were captured, taken down, and the French Navy was the key to help us with a decisive battle to pretty much end the Brits after a tough four years that we almost lost the war many times.
Right.
Washington really pulled out. He's truly one of our great generals and great presidents in our country's history. And he was never built part of a party. He did not believe in parties. He was independent. He was probably our one and only great independent president. He says parties, his words, can destroy the country.
I think when they were voting about what to call him as the leader, it was between Your Majesty or President, and he said, "I'm not a king.
I'm not a king." He says it clearly. I'm not your king. We got rid of King George for a reason. Let
me jump topics real quick. While you were gone, you might not have paid attention to the Karen Reed case, have you?
No. What happened with Karen Reed?
Jury hung a few times. They finally came back and acquitted her.
She's acquitted. Wow, we did do a show about her.
She got acquitted. They said that she killed her police officer's boyfriend.
Yeah.
It's clear. It's completely clear, allegedly, that other police officers had him come in the house, took him to the basement, beat the hell out of him. He had a beef with somebody there. The dog in the house attacked the guy. Experts testified there was clear bite marks all over his arm, defensive bite marks. She didn't do it, and they kicked him out of the house. They probably thought he was okay and going to survive, lick his wounds, but he died out there in the snow, and the girlfriend got blamed.
And she got blamed for it.
There's probably a lot more to it than I'm relating because I haven't followed the last week or so. But
she was acquitted. She was acquitted.
Last I saw, she was acquitted.
Interesting story. We'll follow up on that. We can do a show later and follow up on that. So my assessment, Bill,
conviction,
is that the Parisians are trying, the French are trying to protect. But even with
hang on a second. What I'm seeing now is when I had the phone to me, I just did a quick search. It's saying judge declared a mistrial.
Oh, judge declared mistrial.
So if that's the case, we try to be accurate here, but I apologize to my audience. So if that's the case, you, law enforcement, and me being a career troublemaker and law clerk, know what that means. They could possibly retry her. So.
They might retry her. Then if the mistrial, reason why, and all that, we'll look into it. But real quick to Versailles, 4th of July, I'm in the Palace of Versailles, right? This is Louis XIV, this monster palace that he built out there where he was his hunting lodge, right? He couldn't stand Paris. And I have to admit, Versailles, I haven't been there in years. It is beautiful. It is not at the madness of the Parisian driving. One thing I didn't see last time I was there was in the 90s. I'd been there also in the 80s, but all these little mopeds are everywhere. And they're just driving craziness in Paris. So I'm glad we did Uber around there and not rent a car and drive in Paris because it is absolute madness and nightmare to drive in there. And they don't respect anything. They're top of you. They're right next to you. It is insane. So I don't recommend driving in Paris. That's for sure.
You definitely couldn't have enjoyed the sightseeing, and you would have been even though you're career law enforcement, you would have been a nervous wreck trying to avoid hitting one of these clowns.
No, because they don't drive like we do, Bill.
Right?
They don't drive. They are literally they don't respect anything. The drive, especially these guys on mopeds, man, they come out of nowhere and they're cutting right in front of you. It's insanity the way they drive there. I don't care for that. So I'm glad we stayed out of Paris and Versailles. What a beautiful little town. Very quaint, very nice, very historical. They have their own Notre Dame church. It's not the cathedral. By the way, the cathedral is still 5 years later from the fire, Bill, still not open. Wow. 5 years from the fire, I was right in front of it. Hopefully, they were trying to hope for the Olympics. Still not recovered. Still not there. Hopefully, by the end of the year, maybe.
Can you imagine the logistics of trying to rebuild a building like that? How high it is? How do you get stuff up there? How do you safety issues?
Amazing.
Standards. Trying to keep it historically, similar. I think it took like 600 years to build or something, didn't it? How long did it take to build?
It started, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the 10th century. Yeah, 11th century. It's 1,000 years old. It's amazing. The amount of history there is just phenomenal. That is amazing there. So even with all the security, Bill, right? We get in Versailles, 4th of July. We're there checking this massive palace, amazing everything else. There's an incident. Massive incidents happening. Massive evacuations going on. We can't go in there. We're time-stamped to go in there for a certain time. We see the SWAT team coming in. We see law enforcement. A massive response is going on there. We go back and we say, okay, I'm checking the news. Something's going on here. We decide it's a huge town. We go around, have lunch. We come back, and we know there was a stabbing. I guess one vendor has stabbed another one out there. So even with all the police, stabbings happen. You can ban guns, but people still have other weapons, and bad things going to happen regardless. And you had still police arrest. So is it possible? Even with all the security? Absolutely. Why are Parisians so nervous? Because they know it could happen. Olympics are targeted. Paris is targeted. And this is a venue to go after the Parisians. And they may do it. I'm kind of glad we got out when we did, because I would hate to be stuck in the middle of the Olympics and something bad happens. Try to get out of
it's amazing that they're one of the main countries that invited all these people that don't share their beliefs in.
Yeah.
We're going to help. And they're destroying the country from within, like they're trying to do here, like they're trying to do in the UK. They're like, it's like a cancer. It's almost out of control. And especially here with the Biden crime family and the Bidens,
He'll be gone.
Biden allowing, I think it's 11 million so far came across the border. They're documenting, thousands of terrorists have gotten in now into this country. God knows what they're planning.
He is the worst president. He makes Carter, like I said, look like a superstar. He is the worst president in the U.S. history.
I don't know if you've noticed this, and I've said this for weeks, even on these shows, that the people that have been covering up for Biden's incompetence and coming out lying, say he's getting all this stuff done. Every one of them, the Republicans now and the journalists are looking for ways to find all of those enablers prosecuted under some law, because they've been running the country and they weren't elected. They've been lying to the public about the mental capacity of the president of the United States. There's a Parkinson's doctor, a very prominent guy, in and out of the White House once a week for the last several months. Parkinson's experts have observed him at a distance and said, I can diagnose his Parkinson's from a mile away. He's got Parkinson's.
He definitely has it. I mean, you look at, again, we're not doctors. It's just what we read and what we see. But you look at the debate, and I was in Europe, but I was still seeing some of the part with the YouTube phone because I had the international plan. So I'll still be able to do some things. And he was gap mouth a lot. He wouldn't blink. He'd be like this. I mean, I think the Europeans were having good fun with it. I think they measured how many times he wouldn't blink. It was unbelievable how many times he wouldn't blink. He would just stare like this. He couldn't get off the stage. I mean, remember Jill had to walk him off. Trump came out like nothing.
He has to be prompted by somebody touching him and getting his attention to move him along.
Yes, he does.
Or he'll just wander. And, your heart breaks for anybody in that situation, and we pray for him.
Yeah.
However, he's the leader of the world right now with the nuclear codes.
Yeah.
He should have been removed at least a year ago, if not for corruption, for the mental capacity that he does not have to run the country. He's gotten tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people killed because of his poor decisions and the way he's going about things.
That's why I said, Bill, Joe Biden, one and done. And the two scenarios I wrote about was either he was going to get crushed in the election or not even get there and be another LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, 68, Vietnam War, very unpopular, had to step down. He is not because of Vietnam or even Afghanistan. What he did there was a disaster, how he got out of there after 20 years and not even the Afghan security forces fight after we armed and prepared them was a debacle, but at least keep Kabul for a strategic location for the airport and everything else. That was a disaster. And the way he did it and to let the Taliban do security, and we lost he has blood in his hands for those 13 military personnel members that were killed because of that car bomb, because of him. That was a poor decision. Abbey Gate. Don't forget Abbey Gate.
And there's a prominent donor with the Disney last name who said she will no longer donate directly to him, but she'll continue donating to the party. She said, this isn't a disrespect. This is a practical matter.
He's not fit. So the question, there's a lot of, we know that, look, and even George Clooney. Oh, here's an interesting op-ed piece here that came out in New York Times last weekend. George Clooney, who just had a major fundraiser for Biden on June 15th. I might be off on the date there in LA after he came back from the G7 summit from Italy, where he was snoozing half the time. He walked in circles, Bill. Remember that? Yeah. All the disaster was going there for Normandy. It was just a complete, show that he made there. He'd raised, I think, a record $25 million in that day. $25 million, George Clooney. Royal op-ed is Joe, it's time to go. Mm-hmm. Joe, you have to step down. You're going to have to do it for the good of the party, the good of the country. Everybody knows he's not fit. That debate performance showed everything, Bill, we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years about this guy. Mm-hmm. Is come in where people see it. He cannot be another 4 years. He's getting worse. But Kamala Harris, what are their options? Trump is going to crush whoever they bring. If it's Kamala Harris, the ultimate queen of being a word salad, she's awful. You have Gavin Newsom, destroyed California. He's bad. Gretchen Whitmire, right, from Michigan. She's another socialist out there. Awful. They have no good options. And I think my prediction here, Bill, Trump wins. They take the House. They keep the House. They take the Senate. And that solidifies, and that's the article I wrote. I think you saw it there. The Supreme Court conservative for next 30 plus years.
Yep. And there's a Jewish publication, the Jewish Insider, the Daily Kickoff, it's called.
Yeah.
They have a fascinating article in there about everything going on with Biden, and they call it the summer of Biden discontent. and how all the donors and even the Democrats are fleeing the party because of him. How I see it is this: they're not going to nominate him. I didn't realize. I thought he was automatically going to be the candidate. I didn't know how politics works as well as you did. But evidently, he's still not nominated, so they can they can go around him even if he doesn't withdraw. Put in whoever they feel like.
Yeah, they can.
My concern is this: they put in some other person that we don't necessarily agree with, like a Hillary Clinton or a what was her name? The black journalist Oprah. You know, there was talk about her or Obama's wife.
How about Michelle Obama?
These identity politician people who are billionaires and could care less about anybody, yet they want to tell the poor people how to behave and how to treat them. I mean, it doesn't make a difference what color your skin is. If we had a phenomenal black president, fine, but we got a black president, and all he did was further divide this country along racial lines, and it's continued ever since. So,
and top of that, Bill, he weakened our military. He weakened our president abroad and weakened our military. He's awful president. You can't forgive him for that. So it's going to be an interesting election. Biden's done. Read the book, folks. I wrote this a year and a half ago. Joe Biden, one-term president. I didn't think it would come out like this. I talked about the option, but this is the best case scenario. He gets crushed, embarrassed, humiliated. He's done. And what are they going to bring? It's not going to do well. Trump is going to, someone inexperienced who's never been in this kind of level, right? A governor, maybe. Someone as a senator. Chuck Schumer, maybe. His name has been thrown out there. Imagine Chuck Schumer. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden right there. One and done. That's son.
Ignacio's book about Biden.
The failed Biden politics. Failed Biden policies.
So check out his book. Links in the description. This one here is his autobiography about working as an undercover ATF agent. He's also working a deal where he's already done some filming for the History Channel for a new program called Gangland Chronicles. Ignacio, congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I don't know if you saw the show I sent to you on Patriot.tv, a very, very popular conservative channel that I did. Michael Flynn's on it. Big name. He was National Security Advisor General. Unfortunately, he was railroaded by the FBI. Trump pardoned him. I don't know if you remember that, Michael Flynn. I was on a show there. I'll send you guys again. Check it out there. Talked a lot of these same topics here with Demas, last name Demas. Yeah. So it was a very good show.
Let me update the audience also and you about what's going on since you went away. On the screen here, we have several people that we believe to be not guilty. We're doing a segment called Wrongful Conviction Wednesdays with my fiance, Dr. Mary Bass. And Dave Reinhardt there on the left has tried over 20 times to get into the appeal court in Fresno, California. Highly, highly corrupted area, in our opinion. And these guys are all victims that all except for one of them is from Fresno. We believe all of these guys are innocent for various reasons. Anyway, Dave's case has been huge. His sisters ended up with a couple $100 million of his inheritance. She built the town and the ski chalets and has a home worth about $40 million in San Francisco while he sits indigent, completely dead broke in prison for 20 some odd years now. The judge from Fresno who was preventing him from getting into the appellate court has now passed away. Now they've accepted his filing finally with no corrupt interference from the other court. And we put an amicus brief in there. Mary drafted it. I did an affidavit, and I want my audience to know I found this out probably within the last 2 weeks. Mary, my fiance, myself, William Steele, I'm Bill on Inmate to Roommate. Everybody knows me from A&E Network, Inmate to Roommate, right here. And Kim Kardashian. The three of us are the only reality stars in the United States actively working in the arena of wrongful convictions. So we put out a press release. We put out a press release. We are optimistic about a collaboration with her on some cases, especially out in California.
So, excellent. Yeah, that's a good deal. And what about your list? How's that going with the posters? That's going.
Oh yeah. So my fans were demanding, Bill, put out a rules list and sell autographed copies. So I accommodated them, and these are available. You can send me a direct message or an email here on the thing. Tell me how to see how to get it. You can use different methods, but I'll autograph it for you on camera. I'll send you the video clip of myself autographing your poster.
There we go. That's nice.
You could have Bill's rules, and then my newest book is this one here about a bank vault heist.
Very good. I wrote a nice forward for you on that one.
Frank came back on the show yesterday. Frank, He wrote Framed Innocence, former
That's
county
right.
commissioner in Youngstown, Ohio. He's been exonerated, by the way. Another case of wrongful conviction. Frank had surgery. He was out for a while. He may join us for the premiere of Silent Partners as well. We're hoping that you can find a way to do it. I don't know if you saw this before you left. We did this, and now we're going to add Louis B to it.
Nice.
On my electronic press kit, you're my co-host, Mary's my co-host, Frank's my co-host, and then we're trying to reconfigure it a little to add Louis. The Louis will be on there shortly.
Nice. And interesting here, and I know we talked a little about it. I was looking at the Guinness World Record, and people have been talking to me about it. People have asked me, I mean, you wrote a lot of books. In 2022, I had to count it because my books are digitally published, self-published. I counted 55 books. The current record holder was Barbara Cartland, 23, and she did 77, mostly romance novels, right? Very, very prominent British writer, very popular, tied with the British royals. Princess Diana was a big fan of her books and all that. But I think, Bill, looking at all the numbers, that I might have written the most books ever in 1 year's time. Looking at all the numbers and statistics out there. So
and I can't possibly, during this brief show, put them all up on the screen. But this gives you an idea of what he writes: crime prevention, things
law
to stop active shooters, law enforcement. Popular guest. He's in demand on all the law enforcement shows, all the true crime shows, crime prevention shows. Ignacio's in demand. Now, this is my book also that was featured on my on A&E Network, Inmate to Roommate, and it's available autographed now as well. So reach out to me.
This is Nancy Grace talked about it, right? Nancy Grace talked about it.
Nancy Grace covered my book on her podcast. So if you want that, get a hold of me. Ignacio is also on Amazon right here. This is one of his books about RFK.
Well, if she's watching and she wants to talk to us about our books, we'd be more happy to do a show together, right, Bill? With Nancy Grace?
Yeah, definitely. She was wanting me on the show about Robert Durst and my book, but I still was incarcerated for a few more months. So my co-author, Gary, who's Gary Greenberg, he's with the National Enquirer. He did the interview standing in for me. But now that I'm out a while and very much established, and I have probably as many or more fans than she does at this time. Nancy, by the way, you're the queen of true crime. Google me. I'm the only person in the world called the king of true crime right now.
There we go.
That's my moniker. Trademarking and all this other stuff in effect. So,
and you could have a co-host who could be now Guinness World Record holder of the most books ever written in 1 year, 55 books. So that is something where I'm looking around that it appears that I've done the most books ever in 1 year. So that's something really cool, and it's over 2,000 pages. I know some are short, but I've added them together. That's about 2,000 pages I put together. That's still a lot of writing.
Yeah, and you got to look at the criterion for what they're looking at, and I doubt they get into page count. If you wrote 3,000,
no, I don't think so either. Because she did romance novels, which is in Victorian era romance novels, is what her specialty was. And then she did other stuff later, which is fine. But I think maybe Guinness may not want to change that or what have you, because she was very tight with the Royals and everything else. So we'll see. But what's
the current champion? She's the champion. How many books in 1 year?
She did 23.
Oh my God, you've got over double that.
Double that. I double that. So I think I am now. Even if Guinness doesn't give me the title, I think I am the world record holder for the most books written in 1 year. And I don't think it's easy. People said, "How did you do it?" Remember, I wrote a book about it, Bill, and I mentioned you guys and everything else in the podcast. It wasn't just shows. It wasn't just writing. I also did shows. Have a family. I'm a busy guy, and I always said I kept my lifestyle the way I did as an agent.
How to write? How you write? Your books, blah blah blah. I forgot the title of that one, but the book that tells you how to write that many books. Yeah. Have you changed any tactics where you might want to revise that a little? Are you still sticking to that blueprint?
It worked. No, it worked. It's still. I'm doing. I'm doing more now. I'm doing a lot of articles now. I kind of enjoy doing the articles, which is about at least about 1,000 words, maybe a little bit less, and they're like a chapter. And I submit those, and they're getting a lot of traction too. So sometimes,
where do you submit them to, and are you getting monetized?
I was doing it through Transmedia Group, and they're putting it in different places for me. Now I try to put different op-ed pieces. I submitted one recently to New York Times. I'm going to do one to Washington Post. I just try and get more and more. And if you want to find them, I put them also on my Facebook page, so everybody can read them, and also LinkedIn. So go LinkedIn, Facebook. You can see all the stuff out there I'm writing. And I just did one. I'm going to put it today. an American in Paris just prior to the Olympic Games. And I talk about what I felt and what I see, and people have a lot of anxiety. And Bill, I hate to say it, and I hate predicting things, but the Olympics have a history of violence and attacks, and Paris especially, I think is a perfect storm for something bad.
I'm sure right now all the intelligence agencies are blinking red here and especially over there right now.
You know how many people were on Eric Rudolph?
How many what?
You know how much intel we had on Eric Rudolph before the attacks?
Because he was a loner. He was a loner and didn't use any communications devices.
So history repeats itself, right, Bill?
Yep.
So that's my point was these guys on Versailles were nothing, were loners, right? But they had knives. Yep. They can cause problems. Interesting there. So let's keep an eye on that. We'll see if I get that with that. And with the election coming up, Biden's done. I think we know that. It's bad for Biden when George Clooney, who had his biggest fundraiser, is saying, Joe, you must step down. It's over. It's over.
These celebrities, to me, I've lost so much respect for them because it's one thing to be a Democrat. It's another thing to adopt insane policies of like, let's not prosecute violent felons. Let's let every illegal criminal person on the planet come in here. I mean, it's just obscene, the policies that they're putting out there.
Failed policies.
I will say, right around the time you left, Louis went to Las Vegas. He was out there signing autographs. Now, Louis Balistrieri, as everybody knows, Mafia Detective. He is our new co-host for Mafia Monday segment, former law enforcement. We're going to have him on here again and again with Ignacio to compare notes, and maybe we throw a fourth guest on here, somebody whose brain we can pick, whether it's reformed criminal, law enforcement. We want to have them all. So he was out there doing the tourist thing. He went to the Mob Museum, and he was hard at work the whole time he was there. He had no distractions whatsoever.
No distractions.
Yeah, so this is his table and his backdrop that he had set up.
Very nice.
For Wasteland, he had a little vinyl backdrop there stretched out. Pretty cool. And I'm in the process of making a few things because what's happening is Silent Partners premiere. I'm not going to say the name of the venue on here because they're trying to keep a very private affair, but it's going to be huge. It's being pitched, by professionals in spin and clubs and all that. And so Sarah DiPaggio used to be involved with nightclubs, and they kind of know how to put together a South Florida party, right? So now he's a filmmaker and an actor, and he's become a friend. So I'm in Silent Partners. I asked him point blank. I said, "Is my scene in or are my words in?" He said, "You made it. Your words are in."
So, your words made it. Nice, bro.
Yeah, he said, "My words are off camera, but as the camera's coming, you see Dave responding to me." Dave Iacchevetti wrote the book, Fat Dave, about his father, a Gambino captain. Dave Iacchevetti, Club TV. Hello, Dave. So Dave and I are in the same scene. Everybody's going to see it. I'm sitting at a poker table. Can't give away the whole scene, but I'm going to be putting up a lot of clips about that. Small part. And he's doing another movie called Suitcasing, which is a prison comedy. I mean, harken back to the classic Stir Crazy with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. I don't think it's going to be at that level, but you never know. This guy is getting better at what he does.
You give it a try.
Yes, and plus I have probably, and I try to be humble about it, but I'm very blessed and humbled and appreciative. I probably have more fans than a lot of these people put together right now, only because I have a network show that blew up and exploded. So I have tens of millions of fans, and so I do bring something to the table, but I'm not trying to outshine everybody because this is serious.
Anything new, Bill, coming up with them? Are they going to do another? Are they going to do what's going on with Bill segment or what?
Can't get into all that.
Not yet.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I can't hear you, Ignacio. I got something in my eye.
I hope they do. It'll be fun, and if we can help in any way, let us know. We're more than happy to.
This is what I've been telling everybody. Just stay prepared if you want it. You want to be on it. So that being said, we are looking to put together another event maybe just after the premiere so that we can notify everybody at the premiere of this upcoming event within a day or two of it, where hopefully it'll be you and me, if you're able to make it. Louis Balistrieri, Mafia Monday, organized crime detective. He's committed. The guy I just showed you who went to Vegas.
Yeah.
He's all in. His wife decided not to come. So it's going to be myself, Louis B., Frank Lordi, former commissioner who went to prison, got exonerated. Possibly Samantha Markle, Meghan Markle's sister. She's in Florida. She's a disabled vet in a wheelchair, so it's hard to get around. But We are going to invite her to spend time with us, do the crime prevention thing.
Excellent.
And I'm hoping we get a venue where, let's say you're up, Ignacio, I introduce you, whoever, and you get up there, you say who you are, you sum up your career in like a 10-minute talk, and then you sit down at your table, you have all your books there, you have, your photographs, publicity photographs. And a lot of these things, people sell. I mean, I'm trying to earn an honest living, so I do pretty well with all this stuff, like through the mail. And I've done a few private venues and they always do well. You can have your books there, Ignacio. And I think, in my opinion, you really need to get, especially that ATF Undercover, into a paperback and hardback.
Take a different level. Absolutely.
You're a smart guy. I know you can figure it out within an afternoon, but if you need help, Mary will show you exactly what to do next to put it there, because we start off with our stuff digital and paperback at the same time, with except my last book, which was Vault Heist. I can always tell when one of these sells because I get so little money for it. It's always like there's like a few pennies come through. I'm like, oh, somebody bought that one. This digital book,
Someone did a nice forward on that one, right?
Yeah, you did the forward. I'm sorry, I forget you sometimes. I apologize. Ignacio did the forward on that book. It's about a true bank vault robbery, and
it's a good one. I like that. I read it. It's good.
Crime prevention techniques. So we're going to wrap this up, get this in a can, put some trailers and stuff in it for books and shows. And
one more thing before we wrap it up, Bill. I always have to finish the show. No Buc-ee's.
Oh, what's the status? You've been
no Buc-ee's in Stafford. What's the status? Is good that they still haven't tried to get the waiver because they know they don't have the votes on the board of supervisors to get the waiver because they don't fit in that area, Bill. That area is meant for small commercial, not 120 gas pumps, not a convenience store the size of a Walmart. It is absurd. It's bad for the environment. It's bad with traffic off I-95. And of course, it is going to bring high crime and pollution. And it's a school zone not far from there. Not a good fit. We're fighting all the way. So far, so good. I think we can stop them. The buck stops here. No Buc-ee's. And please look at my petition. I have over 1,500 signatures in county. Bill and Mary were very nice to sign off on it. Please look around, look at it, and please support it. You can find it in change.org. Change.org. Stop Buc-ee's from coming to Stafford.
And we'll try to remember to get that link up in the description as well. Please. We have a little update on somebody we were working with. Remember we did an expose about an assisted living facility, and a lot of issues of corruption and malfeasance we found there. And then, of course, they had their lawyers jump all over us, even though we're well supported. And there's law enforcement already continuing to look at this place. One of our dear friends, Betty, was living there, and we got involved, and we went to court for her several times.
Right.
And in the end, a local guardian had control over Betty and was giving everybody a hard time about seeing Betty. They completely failed to notify her family, despite us notifying the judge on numerous occasions that she has 3 daughters, and they're required to notify family about what's going on. Just found out yesterday, Betty died.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry to hear that.
So I am comforted, and so is Mary and my mother-in-law, and knowing that she knew that we spent the last year fighting for her. We visited her. We took her out to eat, shopping, trips, on our dime, and things. She hadn't been out of that room at that. I'll say the name of the place, Evergreen Village. She hadn't been out of her room in months. They wouldn't hardly take her to go eat in a wheelchair to the place to go eat, even though she's paying rent there. There was thefts from her room. There was false accusations that we were trying to kidnap her, when the only thing we ever discussed with authorities and with our church was helping her to move to a faith-based assisted living facility.
May she rest in peace, Bill. May she rest in peace.
Yep. So she's, we're very devastated. But we're comforted to know that she loved sewing. We bought her a bunch of sewing supplies. She loved McDonald's. We took her to McDonald's. She had the same TV station on in her room for 3 years. Nobody bothered to help her change the station. 3 years. Her TV wasn't even turned off in 3 years. Her clock on her wall was frozen at a time. I said, how long has it been like that with no battery? She said, I don't know, about 2 years. We gave her a battery. Simple things like this, and these people are just so horribly neglected. And
I know you guys are going to stay on top of this, Bill. I know you guys are going to stay on top of this.
I have a book coming out about the corruption within the guardian systems and the assisted living facilities. Nationwide, it's a problem, not just in this facility. But they can do what they want. We are well documented with evidence and facts. So, all right. Just want to wrap up the show. We do the show in memory of Betty. God bless you, Betty. We know we're going to see you again someday, and it was our pleasure to know you on Earth. So,
absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Ignacio.
Thank you, Bill. All right, we'll talk more, guys. Thank you, guys.